Making headlines this hour, the Finance Ministry figures shows expenditure on government subsidies in the first 14 weeks of the year down 21% from the same period last year. The government announces that all residential plots allocated from Gulifalo will now be issued from areas that have already been dredged. And the Maldives Customs Service reports an increase in both import and export revenues from April compared to the previous month. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Abdullah Ahil. And now the news in detail. The Ministry of Finance and Planning figures shows expenditure on government subsidies in the first 14 weeks of the year was $71.3 million, down 21% from the same period last year. According to the ministry's weekly fiscal developments figures, state expenditure on grants, contributions, and subsidies totaled $207.5 million as opposed to $220.5 million in the same period last year. The figures showed that a bulk of this expenditure went towards government subsidies with $71.3 million during the period. The same period last year saw the state spend $84.3 million on government subsidies. Despite the slump in spending for overall government subsidies, expenditure on the Universal Health Insurance Scheme, ASANDA, has increased compared to last year. The state has spent $47.7 million on ASANDA so far this year as opposed to the $42.6 million in the same period last year. The decline in subsidy expenditure was primarily due to lower global fuel prices. In addition, grants to local councils have also declined. According to the weekly report, $48.7 million was spent on grants to councils during the same period last year, in contrast to the $46.5 million so far this year. According to the weekly fiscal development report, the state has received 35.8% of the estimated revenue and grants earmarked in the year's state budget. Tax income accounted for 78% of the total state revenue, with tax collections of $719.8 million so far this year. The report showed that 79.2% of the tax revenue came from value-added tax, corporate income tax, and import duty. As of May 8th, 25% of the total expenditure estimated for the year has been exhausted. This is a 21.8% decrease compared to the previous year. The government announces that all residential plots allocated from Gulifalo under the Bimveria housing scheme will now be issued from areas that have already been dredged. Minister of Construction, Housing and Infrastructure, Dr. Abdullah Muttalib, said some of the beneficiaries of the previous government's housing project had been allocated land in areas that were planned to be dredged but remain undredged. The minister also noted that although some of the land allocated by the previous government has already been registered to beneficiaries, others cannot be completed at this time as the area the land was allocated from remains undredged. The minister underscores that President Muhammad Muizz's policy is to hand over the land registry to the beneficiaries as soon as possible. Accordingly, the Gulifalo land use plan has been amended and gazetted such that all plots are now issued from already dredged areas. With this change, land previously designated for commercial, institutional, and other such uses from the currently dredged area have now been shifted to the areas that are not yet dredged. The minister added these changes have been shared with the association representing the land recipients. He said the lottery draw for the plots will be held this month and land registration will begin soon after. Once the required survey is completed, the land plots will be formally handed over to landowners, effectively addressing the concerns raised by Gulifalo land recipients over delays in registration. Officials from the Maldives and Sri Lanka convened to advance bilateral collaboration in sports, focusing on athlete development and expanded training opportunities. Discussions at the Maldives Ministry of Sports, Fitness and Recreation brought together Maldives Minister of Sports, Fitness and Recreation, Abdullah Rafiu, Sri Lanka's Minister of Sports and Youth Affairs, Sunil Kumara Gamage, and Sri Lanka's Acting High Commissioner to the Maldives, Timothu Sanjika Dissanayake. One of the primary areas of focus was the creation of an athlete exchange program designed to facilitate joint training initiatives and broaden development opportunities. Officials also examined ways to strengthen various sporting disciplines in the Maldives, drawing on Sri Lanka's technical expertise and long-standing support. For years, Sri Lanka has played a key role in assisting Maldivian athletes, providing access to structured short-term and long-term training programs. Experienced Sri Lankan coaches, integral to this effort, continue to refine athlete performance through specialized instruction at Maldivian academies. The Maldives Customs Service reports an increase in both import and export revenues for April compared to the previous month. According to Customs Service statistics, the state earned $24.5 million from import-export in April, while revenue from imports, exports as well as import-export increased in April compared to March this year. Imports in April stood at $304.74 million. This is in comparison to $285.37 million in March. Food items were the top import category, with food items worth $65.9 million imported. The second largest import was various types of fuel amounting to $68.68 million. In April, top import sources were United Arab Emirates $86.5 million, India $47.7 million, China $30.6 million, Singapore $27.6 million, Malaysia $16.9 million. Meanwhile, export revenue totaled $18.94 million in April. While the Maldives exported goods worth $13.2 million in the previous month, this is an increase of $5.71 million compared to the March figure. Import-export earnings stood at $24.6 million in April, while import-export in March stood at $22.7 million. April's figure is an increase of $1.88 million. As in previous months, the Maldives' largest export continues to be fish. In April, the largest export destination was Thailand, which accounted for $12.6 million worth of fish exports. Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of the State Trading Organization, STO, Shimad Ibrahim, says that the government-backed bunkering service has brought in $8.04 million since its launch. He disclosed the figure during the company's 2024 annual general meeting. The service, introduced in September 2024, began operations in Ihavan Dipolu, where the government committed an investment of between $15 million and $20 million to establish its foothold. While this was the intended hub, Ibrahim noted that the most significant business activity is currently concentrated in the Malé region. Although initial results have been encouraging, Ibrahim highlighted the need for further enhancements to maintain competitiveness. He pointed to Sri Lanka as a key benchmark, highlighting the ongoing discussions with stakeholders to address necessary improvements. As part of its expansion efforts, STO has delivered bunkering services to one of the world's largest shipping lines, supplying 1,200 tons of water, an achievement Ibrahim described as a strong indicator of international confidence in the service. The bunkering operation is carried out in partnership with Vitol, an international energy and commodities firm. To facilitate services, 2 vessels are deployed, each capable of carrying approximately 4,000 tons of oil, with refueling conducted offshore while ships remain at sea. Looking ahead, the government anticipates that the expansion of bunkering services will contribute to an additional $400 million to the nation's gross domestic product, or GDP. Officials also project the development of a new industry valued at $389.61 million as a direct result of the initiative. Managing Director of Malé Water and Sewerage Company, or MWSC, Abdul Mateen Mohammed, says that they will be able to add 10,000 tons of its water storage capacity in the capital Malé region from June 2025. MWSC launched efforts to expand its water production and storage capacity last year. Speaking on a PSM News program, Mateen highlighted the extensive efforts MWSC is currently undertaking to increase its water production and storage capacity across the capital. According to Mateen, work is currently underway to connect pumps and pipelines to the 10,000-ton storage plant in Hulumale, which, according to him, will be in operation from next month. Mateen explained the work is being done through an international bidding process. The construction work has now been awarded to a contractor. Part of the plant manufacturing has already been completed. Some materials have been brought to Malé. As part of the government-led initiative to boost MWSC's capacity, the company is working on establishing a water connection system between Hulumale and Malé, which will circulate 800 tons of water per hour. The pipeline, which was integrated into the Sinamale Bridge to connect Malé and Hulumale, was intended to circulate fresh water between Malé and Hulumale. However, the actual water connection was not established over the last 5 years. After President Dr. Mohamed Muiz was elected to office in 2023, he resumed efforts to complete the work. According to MWSC, the project is now nearing completion and is expected to be fully operational by June this year. The training and awareness program aimed at food security for local food vendors concludes Fuamula City. The program, dubbed Ufakara, was aimed at improving food safety and quality for local food producers and vendors. The program was conducted by the Maldives Food and Drug Authority, or MFDA, and the Fuamula City Council. More than 60 home-based food producers and vendors participated in the training program held in Fuamula City. A total of 86 representatives of the food and beverages industry participated in the training program. The program also provided training on safe food production, preparation, and quality improvement, along with familiarization with food safety regulations and standards was also conducted during the program. The Ufakara program was launched in 2017 to raise awareness and training for local food vendors and producers with food safety and standards. Top stories on business. U.S. President Donald Trump says that Walmart should eat the tariffs instead of blaming duties imposed by his administration on imported goods for the retailer's increased prices. His comments were in response to the world's largest retailer saying this week it would have to start raising prices later this month due to high tariffs. Trump said in a social media post, quote, "Walmart should stop trying to blame tariffs as the reason for raising prices throughout the chain. Walmart made billions of dollars last year, far more than expected," unquote. Walmart said it has always worked to keep its prices as low as possible, adding that this practice will not stop. Walmart CEO Doug McMillon said on Thursday the retailer could not absorb all the tariff costs because of narrow retail margins. Even so, he said, the company was committed to ensuring that tariff-related costs on general merchandise, which primarily comes from China, would not drive food prices higher. Many U.S. companies have either slashed or pulled their full-year expectations amid friction between the U.S. and its trading partners, particularly China, as consumers curtail spending. As a bellwether of U.S. consumer health, Walmart's explicit statement about the impact of tariffs is a signpost of how the trade war is affecting the retail sector. Walmart is noted for its ability to manage costs more aggressively than other companies to keep prices low. Every week, 255 million people shop in its stores or place orders online around the world, and 90% of the U.S. population lives within 10 miles or 16 kilometers of a Walmart. Walmart's disclosure comes about 3 weeks after a published report that Amazon planned to disclose how much Trump-imposed tariffs were adding to the costs of its products. The White House blasted Amazon over the report, which the company promptly denied. Britain's chief negotiator says the country hopes to secure a reset deal with the European Union that would boost defense and security cooperation and smooth the arrival of people and also food into the bloc. Britain's EU negotiator and Minister for the Cabinet Office, Nick Thomas-Symonds, told Sky News negotiations with the EU were going to the wire and expected to deliver a deal on Monday. Prime Minister Keir Starmer will host EU leaders in London on Monday in the most significant effort to reset ties since Britain left the EU in 2020 after 4 years of acrimonious divorce talks.
There is no final deal as yet. We are in the very final hours. I always expected it to go to the wire because we are negotiating extremely hard in the national interest. And what we are looking to deliver tomorrow is a deal that's going to be good for jobs, that's going to help to secure our borders, and is going to help to lower household bills. That's the negotiation I'm still in these final hours.
Britain wants the deal to include the use of faster e-gates for British travellers at EU borders, reduced red tape on food trade, and a new defence and security partnership that could allow British companies access to an EU loan scheme worth 150 billion euros or 167 billion US dollars. An update on international events. A Palestinian mother buries her son killed in an Israeli airstrike in Gaza's Khan Yunis on the tented camp of Al-Masawi overnight that killed dozens and injured many more. Samia Al-Qasas, whose husband and son were injured in the airstrike, said the missile hit right beside them. Warda Al-Shair lost her mother in the attack. As mediators hosted a new round of talks between Israel and Hamas, Israel has expanded its military offensive in the enclave and ramped up bombing that has killed hundreds of people over the past 72 hours. There was no immediate comment from the Israeli military, which is preparing for a new ground offensive to achieve operational control in parts of Gaza. Hamas described the strikes as a new brutal crime in a statement on Sunday and blamed the U.S. administration for the escalation. Ukrainian authorities says the largest known Russian drone attack since full-scale war began in 2022 killed a woman in the Kiev region and injured at least 3 people as Moscow stepped up strikes following peace talks. Ukraine's Air Force said that Russia launched 273 drones by 8 a.m. local time or 5 o'clock GMT, targeting chiefly the central Kiev region and the Dnipropetrovsk and Donetsk regions in the country's east. The first direct talks in 3 years between Russia and Ukraine on Friday failed to broker the temporary ceasefire Kiev and its allies have been urging. U.S. President Donald Trump said he would speak to Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Ukrainian authorities said that the sustained overnight Russian drone attack on Sunday killed a 28-year-old woman in the capital region and injured at least 3 people, including a 4-year-old child. Kiev and the region around it, as well as the eastern part of Ukraine, were under raid warnings for 9 straight hours overnight before they were called off at around 9 a.m. local time. The Ukrainian military said on Telegram air defense units were engaged several times trying to repel attacks. Both sides deny targeting civilians in the war, but thousands have been killed in the conflict, the vast majority of them Ukrainians. Logan O'Hoppe hits a home run with a career-high 5 RBIs as the Los Angeles Angels held on for a 11-9 victory at Dodger Stadium. Insights into technology. Chinese official who oversees a tech hub in Beijing says the country's humanoid robots will not replace human workers and cause mass unemployment amid a rapid expansion of the sector and state funding. Liang Liang, a deputy director at the Beijing Economic Technological Development Area, which hosts one of China's largest tech hubs, said in an interview with foreign media that he does not believe that humanoid robots will replace their human creators, but rather boost productivity and operate in hazardous environments. Liang explained that the world's first robot half marathon, held last month in Beijing, was deliberately set up in a way that would highlight his and the hopes of other officials that these humanoids will support and assist humans rather than replace them. The half marathon featured 2 tracks separated by a railing, with humans competing against each other on one side, while on the other side, 20 teams each operated a robot varying wildly in size and ability. Liang spoke to reporters at the headquarters of Humanoid, also known as the Beijing Humanoid Robot Innovation Center, whose robot Tiangong Ultra won the inaugural robot half marathon and was on display with a winner's medal to media, showing off why it had won the race as it sprinted back and forth during a demo. Besides the sports-focused Tiangong Ultra model, which can reach top speed at 12 kilometers or 7 miles per hour, the center also displayed other prototypes of robots completing mundane tasks such as dental cleaning and collecting medicine from a pharmacy. Despite concerns about the impacts on jobs, Beijing sees the technology as key to plug labor shortages in areas such as elderly care, where demand is increasing as China's 1.4 billion population ages. The sector has seen an explosion of new firms. According to Morgan Stanley, in 2024, 31 Chinese companies unveiled 36 competing humanoid models versus 8 by US companies. And that's all the news we have for today. We'll be back with any further updates. Until then, I'm Abdullah Ahil from PSM News.
ಕೊಮ್ಮೆದುವಹಕು ಅಗ್ಗಡಿ ತಿರಿಹುಗ PSM ನ್ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್
ಗಾನುಂತಂ ಹೆದುಮ್ಗೆ ಮರ್ಹಲಾಕ ಕುರೆವೆ ಬಹುಸ್ತಕ ಖಿಯಾಲ್ತ ವಿಸ್ಕಿನ
ಮಾ ಬಡಕಂ ಎಪಾಟಿ ಮಿಪಾಟಿ ಕಿಯಾರು ಜವಾಬ್ ಕೊಂ ಅರುಣ್ ಮೆ ರುಳಿಯನವರು ಕಮೆ ನೂಂಬಿ
ಮೀತ ಅಳಗಣ ಮೆ ಫಾತು ಗಣ್ಣ ಗೊ ಚೀಲ ಗಣ್ಣ ದಕ್ಕಂಚೆ ವಿಸಾರಕಿ
ಎಮೀಹುಂಗೆ ಮಸ್ಸಲೆಂ ಒಕ್ಕಮ ದಕ್ಕಂ ಉಳುಮಕೊಂ ಹಗೀಗಿ ಮಸ್ಸಲೆಯಕಂ ಹಲ್ಲೆ ನಾದ ಇಸ್ತೆ ರೈಸ್
ಬಿಲುತ ದಿರಾಸಾಕೊಂ ಎಕುಲವಾಲಾಯರು ಮಜ್ಲಿಹುಗೆ ಮೆಂಬರುಂಗೆ ಇತುರುಂ ಆಮುನ್ ದೆಕೆ ಗೊವ್ವೆಸ್ ಮುಹಿಮ್ಮು
මේක සල්පන් අලුමෙන් රාජ්‍යක අන්න හුරිහා පෙරිෂබල්ස් එක්වස් දාති කම
අගොන් මෙන් අමාසකි රයිස් ජම්හූරියා ඩොක්ටර් මොයිස්ගේ වෙල්කම් ගේ තෙරෙක් එන් හාස් ජුවා ඛතීබුන් තම්රින් කෝ
කිහා වරක ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් අලගොන් මෙන් හිඟුණතෝ කිහා අද දෙග්ගේ ජුවානෝ අලගොන් මෙන් නෙරවුණතෝ
අලුන් මෙන් මිකුරා ඉන්වෙස්ට්මන්ට් කි ෆෑදා හුරි ඉන්වෙස්ට්මන්ට් කි කම ගොත හෙදේතෝ කොරවෙන් හුරියා මසකති සිරත් කොවියා කොරන්
එම්මෙ මුහිම්මි ගානුණතක ලියවි එයන් අමල් කුරන් ප්‍රශ්මුගේ කුරින් ඒගේ බේනුමා ඒ නිකුණල් නති ජයංගු
ಬಾಬು ಬುರಾಸ್ವತ್ತು ಹುಗೆರೆ ಬಾವಿಸ್ ಕಡಿ ಸುಮ್ಮಿನಟ್ಕ PSM ನ್ಯೂಸಿಂಗ್
PSM lens इंसानियत पुरा खिदमई हिले साबा कुरा मसेक्के शर्फवेरी मसेक्कते खिदमत के अगवजन को दिनों खिदमत तेरी फराते होवों खिदमत तेरी फरात का दे अवार्ड
मी शो के जरिया इन वत मी अवार्ड के जरिया मुजतमा खिदमत कुरमा ಹಿವ್ವರ್ವೆಸ್ ಸಬ್ಬಯಕ ಲಿಬಿಗಂದಾನ ಕಮುಗೆ ಯಗಿಂಕಂ ಅಳಗೊಂಡಂಗೆ ಬೆ
TSM Lens